Last season, I talked about the question mark Nemesis Delve boss and how much of a failure I thought that was. So now that we have a new season and a new Delve boss, I want to talk about it again and see if Blizzard redeemed themselves. Spoiler alert, they did not. As you can see, I'm entering the question mark Delve just so there's no accusations that I went on question mark difficulty or whatever. You'll see me fail multiple times in this video, so there's no doubt that I'm doing the question mark one, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. And there's no doubt that this one is way easier than the previous fight, but I think it fails at a different aspect than the old one did. I'm going to show this fight also on healer and DPS and tank mode because I think that's one of my main talking points about the difference in experiences you have on this fight, depending on what class you play, and your play style is going to greatly influence how difficult this fight is. And while every class should excel at certain things, having a capstone difficult fight shouldn't be way easier on one spec than the other, right? They should make it a pretty universal experience, and they did not do that. Here's a failure, but this isn't Blizzard's fault. This is just pure stupidity. I went into this as a healer, and I left Valera on healer, so neither of us had an interrupt, so we instantly lost. You can't fix stupid, right? Blizzard can't fix the fight for that. That's my own fault. So if you didn't know, playing this on healer is basically the cheesiest, easiest way to defeat this boss in the game, and it's such a snooze fest and so poorly designed that it's clear that they didn't want you to do this on a healer at all, but they left it in there for people to be able to do. So here's how you do the fight as a healer. You put Valera on DPS mode because for some reason she is tankier as a DPS than she is as a tank. I don't know why, but that is the case. And you heal her, and that's it. You just sit here and slow cast small heals. You can't go too fast because up in the top right corner you see how you've got his name bar and you see at 105% and it's going down to 103. So at 130% he will drop aggro off Valera and he'll come basically one-shot you, two-shot you. So you have to keep it under 130% aggro, which means you have to be very careful what healing you're doing. But it also means that I can't DPS him, which is a whole part of my kit. Part of being a fist weaver is the fist weaving, but I can't do that because I'll draw aggro. That's why I'm saying that it's a really awful part of the fight is that I don't have access to half my kit and I just have to boringly stand there and let Valera do all the work. And I don't really think that aggro management should be a part of this fight. If we were talking about classic WoW, yeah, aggro management was a real thing, right? You had to wait for 3 sunders before you attacked, and you had to really keep track of your aggro because there was a lot of mechanics built around that, and tanks didn't generate much threat. But in modern retail WoW, tanks generate so much threat that I don't really think aggro management ever really comes up. Maybe in Mythic Raiding it does, but to my knowledge, there's no real part where you have to be too concerned about aggro. So the fact that this fight is all around aggro management seems really out of place when they could be emphasizing other skills or other pinnacles of the game that are actually relevant to being a healer in Midnight. So this was my actual attempt where I was actually trying a little bit, but as you can see, I'm clicking buttons, and that's just to show how casual this is. You don't need to be playing super hardcore. You don't need to be sweaty. I'm literally just clicking. I'm hard clicking on buttons because all I have to do is stand here and let Valera DPS him down. It takes a while because Valera's DPS isn't always the best. As you can see, he's at about 95% HP now. I think it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for her to just slowly burn him down. Again, I would like to jump in there and do DPS too, but I'm not allowed. Now, I do like his insta-kill mechanic in this fight. In the last fight, I criticized instant kill mechanics, and I usually don't like them, but in this case, it's an interrupt. And if you've played retail WoW, you know that too many people don't know how to interrupt abilities, and that is a core part of the game. So by putting a instant kill mechanic, just one, behind this boss saying you need to do this mechanic consistently, and that mechanic is a core aspect of the game, I do enjoy that. I know it's a little annoying because it happens very often, but in this case, I think it's relevant to the game, and so I don't mind one instant kill mechanic on this fight. The problem is how other people experience this fight, because the healer, as I said, healer is the absolute cheesiest, easiest way to do this fight. You literally stand here for 10 minutes. Most people on the forums call it free because this is all you do. You watch that percentage, make sure it stays under 130%, and you keep Valera alive. I didn't keep her life on this run because I actually wasn't paying attention because I was so bored that I forgot to heal her here, and you can see her life bar getting chunked down because I wasn't paying enough attention because, again, I wasn't super sweating this. I already beat it, so I didn't want to beat it again. I just wanted the video footage. So yeah, you can fail it if you're not paying attention, but that is such a low chance. If you're actually like paying attention, you're not going to fail this fight at all. So now I'm going to swap into tank mode so we can talk about the tank aspect of this fight. And honestly, I think the tank fight is the worst and probably hardest way you can experience this fight. And the reason why I say it's the worst is because it's got the worst possible mechanic involved, and that is RNG. Very difficult fights should be based around skill and ability, learning the fight. It shouldn't be based around complete random chance, and that's why I think while it's not as bad as the last Delve boss, this one still fails because they rely heavily on RNG to make this a difficult fight. So in tank mode, you're going to get hit with an ability called Imploding Strike. The boss uses, I want to say it's on the 30-second cooldown, where he will hit you for between 0% and 100% of your HP. And that is way too wide of a gap to ever be predictable, because the ability can be dodged. And I want to be specific, when I say dodged, I don't mean it's like a telegraphed move where you have to move out of the way. It hits you no matter what, unless you activate your actual like dodge chance mechanic. Your character can physically use their dodge ability to dodge the mechanic. But that doesn't feel very good because, one, you have no control over, and two, it makes this fight very up and downy. You see, I just dodged the ability there, so I'm doing just fine. But if it hits you, it can do like 80-90% of your HP, and you're basically on near death. And that's why you need to have Valeera as a healer. I'm guessing they put this in because they didn't want people to just have this as Valeera as a DPS and burn it down too fast. There, I got hit with it, you can see that. But I don't think this was the solution. And the reason why I don't think it's a solution is because, one, as I said, because you have no control over actually dodging it, some classes get a way easier experience. I'm on my Brewmaster, obviously. Brewmaster with high dodge, it barely ever hits me. It makes this fight way easier than what I was doing on my Blood DK, who obviously could not dodge it nearly as much, but has more self-healing to heal back from it. However, allegedly it can also crit, and there's some debate on this. I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert at WoW, so I don't know what the actual truth is on this one, because I've been told multiple things. Once he gets down to about 5 or 10% HP, that Imploding Strike can hit you / crit you for between 600 and 700,000 damage. On my Blood DK, I had 588,000 HP. What this meant was when he got down to 5%, it was an instant kill mechanic that you could not dodge and you could not do anything about. So the only way you could beat him is by getting lucky and dodging it, or burning him down so fast that he can't possibly hit you with it, which I don't think is honestly possible. I do think that you have to rely on a little bit of luck to dodge at least 1 or 2 of those impending strikes, unless your eye level is just way, way too high. But this isn't supposed to be an eye level check. When this came out, people were doing this at 220, 230 eye level, so clearly the burning it down was not intended. So what you're left with is a fight where you're relying on pure luck to dodge the attack at the end to be able to win, and you have no control over that, and that sucks. Now, there are some people who say that it's not based on time. Some people say it's a time limit thing, like the longer you're in the fight, the more damage he does. Other people say it's based on the ads. And the ads are something else I want to talk about that I don't think were well implemented. At 75%, 50%, and 25%, the boss will stop and he'll become immune and he'll summon in ads. Now, allegedly, if you kill the ogre, which is the last one that comes in at 25%, that's where he goes berserk and does more damage. So if you don't kill it, he won't crit you. And that's actually what I did on my winning run with my Blood DK, was I completely ignored the ads so that I wouldn't kill him, so that he wouldn't go berserk, so he wouldn't deal the damage. So I personally believe that is confirmed to be the truth, because that was my experience. But as I said, that is debated. But what I want to talk about the ads is how poorly they were designed. When you have ads on fights like this, the whole point is that they should have some sort of either annoying ability that makes it very difficult, so you have to deal with them first, or they should be like a DPS check where you have to burn them down and take them out before the boss comes back into the fight, or something to make the ads relevant. But here, the ads aren't relevant. on all of my characters that I did this with, I just ignored the ads. Like, sure, when the boss was invulnerable, I'd whack at them while I could, except for the ogre, because I wanted to keep him alive to test that other theory. But for the most part, it doesn't matter whether you burn them down or not, because they don't do enough relevant damage to do anything to the fight. They don't change the fight in a meaningful way. So you're just, okay, well, you have some ads, so I'll just AoE them down as I'm burning on the boss. It's no big deal. That's not a good implementation of ads if I can just ignore the mechanic. The last thing I want to talk about on this guy, for at least the tank perspective, is his other mechanics. If you haven't read up on the fight, I want to talk about all the mechanics. So his other two mechanics that he has is he will summon in a orb that floats around randomly around the map, and if you get too close to it, it'll just slowly drag you towards it. It's annoying, but not overly detrimental. And after he summons his first ad, there will be a laser beam that will randomly shoot across the map, and that laser beam will cause a void tear behind it. And if you stand in the void, you take damage. So basically, it just locks off part of the map, so you have to constantly be moving, don't stand in the bad. On its own, it's not that bad. But again, I hate RNG in fights like this, and it turns into an RNG fest, because what'll happen is the laser will randomly select where you're standing at, and Valeera will throw your healing directly in the bad where you can't stand. And you really don't have a whole lot of control over that. In Season 1, Bran threw potions all over the place. They made it a little bit better here. Valeera is better about it, but I almost wish that she just gave you a button, like to heal yourself, like a potion in your inventory you could put on your hotbar, and she just refilled it based on her healing thing, so you didn't have to run around to collect it. It would actually be like a button you physically click. Maybe even put it on the global cooldown to make it a little bit more challenging. But I wish we had a little bit more control over where she's throwing these potions, because again, it feels bad when she randomly throws the potions into the bad where you're not allowed to stand. You can't go get them because it'll hurt you. And what are you supposed to do about it? There's nothing you can do about that. So here's where you can see the mechanic I was talking about a little bit earlier. So during this phase where it says Empower Void Orb, the boss is immune, so I have nothing else to do but to attack these mobs. So of course I'm going to attack them, but the second that the boss comes back up, I'm going to switch to him, and I'm just going to ignore those mobs, and I'm going to fight him from here on. I shouldn't be able to just ignore these mobs. I should be punished for having them still up, but I'm not. Now I'm going to skip ahead here, because I'm sure you don't want to watch me slowly burn down that boss for 50% more of his HP. So here we jump into Windwalker spec. And while admittedly DPS is my absolute weakest spec, because I typically don't ever play DPS, I'm basically always a healer, and if I'm not a healer, I'm a tank. So I'm not the best DPS, and that obviously shows here, because I do struggle with this fight, because I don't quite understand, like, he does so much damage to me that healer Valeera does help out a lot, but it just feels like boring to me, where this guy's like, oh, I hit you for 25 to 50% of your health bar every time I hit you, and the whole fight is just about making sure that you get close enough to those potions and click them in time. I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's actually like the pinnacle of being a DPS. And again, maybe I'm wrong on that, and I fully accept if I'm wrong on that, because I don't DPS very often. I am a healer at heart, so maybe that is the core aspect of being a DPS. But to me, the core aspect of being a DPS is dealing DPS, not learning to mitigate hits and all that. That seems to be, tanks and healers who do those parts of it. However, it's clearly possible, as people say that DPS is one of the easier ways to handle this. As I said, tanks were considered to be the hardest one because of that imploding strike. If you're playing on a DPS, you can see here there's no imploding strike. So all you have to do is interrupt his big attack when it happens, burn down the ads when they appear, and make sure that you're constantly hitting the healing as soon as possible. Now, obviously here the gear would probably make a huge difference, and it might be a little bit of a gear check, because if I wasn't in 230 gear, I'd probably be taking a lot less damage and dodging a lot more abilities, and probably stand a little bit more of a chance. But again, I want to just touch on this aspect since we were touching on healer and tank as well. Okay, I'm going to pop back over to the tank stuff here while I talk about my final thoughts. I really think that Blizzard needs to reevaluate what they want out of the question mark delves, because so far they've just all been pretty lackluster. In fact, the only one I really enjoyed was against the Goblin in Season 2 of last expansion. And that's because it felt like there was actually like a lot of skill to learning the fight, understanding all the different mechanics and burning him down, and learning when to DPS, when to heal, how to position. There was a little bit of RNG still, but you could control a lot of that RNG, so I didn't hate it nearly as much. These last two delve fights One was just way too abusive with quick time events and insta-kills, and this one just doesn't feel relevant to the game at all, and some modes is way too easy, and other modes it seems way too difficult and too RNG heavy, and that doesn't feel good. If this is supposed to be the pinnacle for a solo player, and that's what I truly believe this experience is supposed to be, is, okay, this isn't for raiders, this isn't for people doing PvP, this is for people who delve. This is like the pinnacle boss for showing that you're good at delves. So it should incorporate what makes you good at delves. And having random mechanics for different characters obviously isn't working. And like I said, having it so like dodge chance is important, while some classes really heavily rely on dodge and other ones don't, makes this a bad fight. I also don't like the idea of just outgear it to beat it, even though that kind of is an RPG thing. I think you could have a much better experience on these fights if Blizzard said, okay, we want this to be a pinnacle experience, so you are forced at a certain eye level to do this, and maybe they should make it a certain spec thing. I know people want to play the game they want to play, but obviously having a healer, a tank, and a DPS fight is not working, since these are radically different fights for all three of them, and some are way easier than others. If they built the fight around expecting, okay, everyone that's going to go in here is going to be a DPS, since that's what most people have and everyone plays in a DPS spec, then we only have to balance it around one thing rather than trying to juggle these three different aspects. And for tanks, I don't think the solution is a huge hit that might insta-kill you, it might not. If they don't want the tank to just cheese it and get through it too fast, maybe they should just have like a DPS check or a time limit on, say, okay, the tank must do XYZ amount of damage in a certain amount of time, or it resets, rather than we're just going to randomly one-shot you every now and then. There's not really much you can do about it. Overall, the fight wasn't very fun, and I don't really consider it much of an achievement to beat this boss because, as I said, on a healer, it's an absolute snooze. On a tank, it was just pure luck that I managed to dodge a certain amount of times in a row in order to beat the boss, because otherwise he would just one-shot me and there's nothing I could do about that. So it doesn't feel like it was actually like a skill-based achievement. It just feels like a luck-based achievement, and I don't like that. And I know players like me are eating good this expansion, since I don't do any sort of raiding and I don't do any sort of Mythic Plus. Delves are basically all I do, and we have the praise system now, which gives me a little bit more solo content to do. So I appreciate having a solo pinnacle fight. I appreciate the existence of it. I just wish there was a little bit more thought put into these fights other than, here's some RNG, here's some instant kill mechanics, go wild. As always, thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments down below. I did forget to link it earlier, but like I said, I did actually beat this fight, so I guess I could put the achievement somewhere on here in the comments or something so people can see that. I don't know why anyone would call me a liar, but I have beat this fight, so there you go. Thank you for watching, and have a blessed day.